Today on Locked On Rockies, a really interesting piece from Thomas Harding highlights a bunch of questions the Colorado Rockies have to answer this offseason. The question is, will they actually answer those questions?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 14th day of October in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. Lots of Rockies fans firing off their Rockies hot takes in the Locked On Rockies comment section, commenting on the return of Bud Black as well. So make sure that you go and check out the all sorts of comments and thoughts. Quick thoughts, deep, long thought out thoughts. Lots of really good comments there from our YouTube comment section. Go check it out there. Go be part of the show. Every time you like a video, every time you subscribe, every time you follow, that is really, really, really a great way to help the show grow. Today on the show, I'm going to read through a piece from Thomas Harding and asking a few questions about the Rockies and get his thoughts, and I'll also give my answers to some of these questions as well. And I think we might have to admit, or at least acknowledge as Rockies fans, the Dodgers might be inevitable. It might be this might be the time it gets it all together. The series far from over against the Mets, but unfortunately, I think the Dodgers are looking good there, and I'm not so certain the Yankees or Cleveland. Well, I mean, it's really interesting. We'll dive into that here coming up in a little bit on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Fighting it a little bit today, folks, so apologies. All right. Thomas Harding in the newsletter he sends out, the Rockies Beat newsletter. Highly suggest that you go check out the Rockies Beat newsletter there. He asked 5 questions of the Rockies here. Before we dive into that, just got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with the big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so a couple of things here is Thomas Harding, of course, one of the best in the business when it comes to covering and following the Rockies. Been doing it, I think, longer than just about anybody at this point. One of the longest tenured reporters there. Kind of goes in and highlights and discusses the fact that look at the Tigers, look at the Royals, look at the bounce backs, look at where they're at, look what happened. Can the Rockies get there? And I want to start with the quote that Bill Schmidt tells him. Our talent base is getting better, General Manager Bill Schmidt said. Our depth is getting better. I'm not going to say we're going from this year to win 95 next year. Our record this year might be similar to 2023 or 2024, but we're going to be a better club. And I want to start right there. It is unacceptable for the standard to be 3 straight seasons of 100 losses. You are going to set another piece of bad history there. And when you're already setting yourself up to settle for that, that makes me so much less interested as a Rockies fan. There is so many things that you could do this offseason. There are moves you could make there, and you already, again, you have set off on this path. This response, this answer, this everything makes total sense when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, because this is the team committing and saying, we are sticking with our manager, we are sticking with most of our coaches, we are sticking with most of this roster, and we are going from there. And they believe it's going to take some magical step up and handle things and get them to settle just for being the worst team, one of the worst teams in baseball for the 3rd straight season in a row, instead of actually really taking yourself and taking stock of what you have and making the changes. That is flat out unacceptable. And I know it's just one quote, but Again, we've been waiting for a team to build an identity. This is now a rebuild that's going to go into year 7, year 8 now, if you're factoring all the way back to, okay, so the postseason, what was it, 2018 was the last time the Rockies made the postseason. That is 6 seasons now where the Rockies have not made the postseason. And now, with the setup and with that thought process already, you're setting yourself up for season number 7. You're setting yourself up for Bud Black to be the second manager ever to have back-to-back 100-loss seasons. And yes, you can sit here and say, you take away the historic bad bullpen implosions, you take away this, and it's going to be a little bit better. Great. Do you feel a lot better about the Rockies if they finish with 90 losses next year? 95 losses next year? Do you feel better about the Rockies if they can't hit 70 wins? No, I don't. And I don't think that the team will be preparing itself and building itself up to actually take advantage of this core. It's frustrating. Bud Black, though, had this to say. Kansas City, Detroit, anything is possible. When I got here in 17, what happened in 16? 75 and 87, a record under Walt Weiss, and we made the playoffs. Listen to what Bill Schmidt is saying. He's saying it's going to be similar, but a better club. If the Rockies jump up and get 14, because that's the difference there. To get to 75 wins, that's a 14-win swing for the Colorado Rockies. A 14-win swing. Are we confident that this team is going to be able to do that, given the fact that we're pretty positive it's going to be very similar to the same roster that we saw this year? I don't think so. Here's some of the questions that Harding asked. Can they improve the lineup here? The Rockies strikeout-prone lineup, which ranked at the bottom of the National League in that category for the second straight year, will require at least a couple of hitters who consistently make contact. The Rockies had 420 homer players, but only Ezekiel Tovar slugged enough, 26 home runs and 75 extra base hits, the second best mark in NL, to counterbalance the whiffs. Still, he must work to be more disciplined than his 200 strikeouts in 2024. In a breakout 2024, center fielder Brenton Doyle lowered his strikeout rate from his rookie campaign in 23. And he goes on to ask, they have to fill the voids of Charlie Blackmon, and they're still dealing with Chris Bryant. So that is the start. If you are that question is the biggest one right there. That is the development question. How are you going to, what does year 3 look like for Brenton Doyle and Ezekiel Tovar? And what does year 3 look like for Nolan Jones? What does year 2 look like for Michael Toglia? These guys have critical development spots here, critical moments here. And again, you are sitting there and you are turning to the people that have led an offense that has been one of the worst offenses in baseball to go forward and develop these players, to get them to where they need to be. And maybe it's one of the worst in baseball in terms of just striking outs. And I know they're in the middle when it comes to home runs and yada, yada, yada. But this is still an offense that is so far from where it needs to be. So this is, again, this coaching staff is going to have to develop and show that these players are going to be able to take a step forward. We need to see the Brenton Doyle developments happen across the board for people. We need to see every single, it is not Tovar. It is not just McMahon. It is not just Doyle. Every single member of the Colorado Rockies needs to cut down the strikeouts. Every single one of you. I don't care if you've been in the league for a day. I don't care if you've been in the league as long as Ryan McMahon. The Rockies will go nowhere, will still be so inefficient on offense if they cannot address the strikeout issues. And I don't think that this team itself does not give me the confidence to really buy into thinking that they are going to get this team ready to cut down the strikeouts. Ryan McMahon has been striking out a ton his entire career. Brendan Rodgers is one of the most aggressive batters in the game. I just don't know if we're going to, I don't know if we can sit here and confidently, this is, again, we talked about this on Thursday. This is prove it. This is prove that you have made the right decision with your coaching staff. They have to help these guys get better. And if this team is sitting in a position where they're not getting better, where they're stagnant, where they're floundering throughout the season, you need to make a tough decision there as well. More questions here for the Rockies from Thomas Harding's piece coming up here after we take a quick break. Before we dive into all the rest of the Rockies action, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Ibotta. It is prime time for all the things you need for school. Maybe it's the school supplies that you forgot about as you're getting well into this school year. Maybe your kids are already growing like crazy and they're getting out of their clothes and you need to find the next new fit for the fall. Well, I got your help here, and it is Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you have been craving. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibata is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibata by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibata app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Oops, I forgot to here. Just in case, I forgot to put this up for those on the YouTube side. We got the Ibotta link right there, right at the bottom. Check it out. Our friends at Ibotta, thank you so much for supporting the show. All right. Let us return to the Locked On Rockies podcast and the Rockies chatter here. As we thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Hey, for your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully, breaking down all things Major League Baseball, getting you well informed as you go through the postseason here. All right, so we're reading from Thomas Harding's Rockies Beat newsletter here. And again, I highly suggest that you go and check this out. So the first question was, can they improve the lineup? The second question, how can they acquire contact hitters? The Rockies are this is from Harding, by the way. The Rockies are contemplating redistributing payroll. That means making tough decisions on some of the players who are in line for jumps in their final year of arbitration. Righty Cal Quantrill, who made $6.55 million in 2024, is more likely to be moved than lefty Austin Gomber, who made $3.15 million. The other possibly available player is 2022 Gold Glover Brendan Rodgers, who made $3.2 million this past season. The Rockies are loath to give up a starter, and Rodgers is a key part of one of the game's best defenses, but strong teams make tough decisions. Some clubs covet Ryan McMahon, who's owed $44 million over the next 3 seasons, but the Rockies' long-held preference to identify and hold on to core players makes a deal difficult. I want to highlight this key part in this one here. Strong teams make tough decisions. Strong teams make tough decisions. And this question and this part of it, this dips into the business. This is business, and this is the tough side of sports. Because I will sit here and I will say, I like Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan Rodgers has great talent and great ability. Has Brendan Rodgers lived up to what where he was at? Has Brendan Rodgers gotten the most out of being in Colorado? Is Brendan Rodgers in the best spot for him and for the Rockies? If you already are committed to the fact that your team is going to be similar to where you're at, why not go younger? Why not see what Rodgers can bring in? Tough teams make tough decisions. And I think it's clear that you cannot put the Rockies in that category. Because tough teams make tough decisions, and that means Ryan McMahon would have been traded at the trade deadline. Maybe. I don't know. The McMahon one's really weird. I hear a lot of hype about Ryan McMahon. I hear a lot of hype about people wanting Ryan McMahon, about being interested in Ryan McMahon. And I look at the Ryan McMahon just seasons as wholes. And I just wonder what are teams seeing in Ryan McMahon that the Rockies aren't getting out of him for them to continuously be this excited about a guy that really falls off in the second half of the season, that really isn't all that consistent as we've seen throughout his major league career. But the point is, I don't have any confidence in the team to make these deals. Smaller deals, you're getting Nolan Jones for, your prospect swaps. I can see a Cal Quantrill deal. I can see that. You trade Cal Quantrill, you add Feltner into the mix, you're fine. Like in reality, like I could really see that, because then it's what? Freeland, Herman, Senza, Gomber, Feltner. I don't think it's that crazy for that to be the starting rotation next year. That's basically, I mean, you've already seen most of that rotation anyway, obviously, with the two question marks being what does a full season look like for Herman Marquez and Antonio Senzatella. But again, this type of move, like the question Thomas asks, how can they acquire contact hitters, and then list these things? But am I confident that the Rockies will make any of those moves? I'm not. This is, again, they believe the club's going to be better. They believe they're on the right track. The XYZ, all the cliches, all the same crap that you've heard. I don't see this team as selling on any of these pieces, because why not sell at the deadline? Why not get a pitcher from the Mariners when they're looking? Why now? What took you until now to get yourself in a position where you try to move these guys? I don't know. We'll see. Who will improve during the offseason is the next part. I mean, and it in plain and simple, it has to be outside of Doyle. I mean, it doesn't actually really with everybody. The Rockies need to be better at stolen bases. The Rockies need to cut down on strikeouts. The Rockies need to be able to count on their bullpen. The Rockies need to be able to get starting pitching to go deeper into games. I mean, there are so many ways that the Rockies could get better. It's just a matter of will it come to fruition? The one thing that this piece brings up is that Doyle really worked with Bam Bam this offseason, and they had some great success. And there's a great example, hopefully, of what Bam Bam can do as the hitting coach there. But it has to go down the line. You need a huge bounce back from Nolan Jones. You need guys like, and these guys are all mentioned in the piece here from Harding. You need guys like Tolia, Goodman, and Beck to take steps forward. And Goodman and Beck, like, where are they going to play? What are you going to do for the corner outfield spots? Are you going to be sending Chris Bryant into the field at all? These guys, it doesn't matter who you pick. You could point to any single member of the Rockies roster and point out that they need to step up and they need to improve. Remember, these guys, the best Rockies players would be middle of the pack best on some of the best teams in baseball. And we'll see here. Here's what Thomas has to say about the rotation next year. Scott, as in Daryl Scott, should have his staff lefties. Oh, hold on 1 second, folks. All right. Let's see. Scott should have in his staff lefties Kyle Freeland and Gomber, who finished the year healthy after some ailments earlier in the season. Righties Herman Marquez and Antonio Senzatella, both of whom had Tommy John surgery last season. And righty Ryan Feltner, who had his 2023 largely wiped out by a fractured skull, but finished 24 in a promising fashion. Beyond that, more pitchers are on the radar. That's about it. You just got to hope that all of those guys are better. And obviously, you got to hope that Senza and Marquez can come back and return from injury and be effective. Here's a question. Next question. Will they prioritize experience in the bullpen? Righty Victor Vodnik earned a job out of spring training and made an impact as a setup man and closer. By season's end, rookies Angel Chivi, Luis Peralta, Jeff Criswell, Jaden Hill, and Seth Halverson also made impressions. But Justin Lawrence and Jake Bird, stalwarts in their first full season in 2023, struggled through injuries and command in 2024. Bullpens tend to be fickle, and relievers with less experience can be fall-off risks. Righty Tyler Kinley is expected to return as a veteran leader, provided the stress reaction in his throwing elbow heals properly, but the bullpen could use a vet, preferably with closing experience, and a veteran lefty to pair with Peralta. Again, we're sitting here at a point and just saying we think this young bullpen will be good enough. It's all leaning back and relating or hoping that it all pans out. I mean, the bullpen, the Rockies, I could see them grabbing something off the waivers. They really do need that veteran presence there, and I think that that's a good insight there from Harding. The bullpen The bullpen has to be better. I mean, and it can't be much worse than it was last year. And here's the last question here from Thomas Harding. Can they sharpen the edges of the roster? Lower profile moves can make all the difference. While Jake Cave, acquired for cash considerations from the Phillies late in spring training, was the utility outfielder used most of the season, he was outperformed late by Sam Hilliard, 812 OPS in 58 games, a waiver claim during spring training. Recent years have seen the Rockies rarely score on unheralded moves with pitching or position players that may save payroll and allow development time for prospects. If you're just sticking with the status quo, if you're sticking with what you do, if you're sticking with the normal thing, you need to make sure that you are properly adding the right type of veteran guys. Sam Hilliard would be fine, but in that situation, you can't not only add these people and then sit there and be like, bam, key piece. And it goes back again. You can like the player Jake Cave. You can like the energy that he brought to you. But I desperately need you to look at the stats of Jake Cave, look at the stats of Jake Cave compared to others. And it was said right there in Harding's piece. I mean, Hilliard outperformed him. So those are the types of moves that if the Rockies are going to make, they can't sit there and be, that's my go-to. Your starting corner outfielders must be young guys from your system next year. If you're already going to commit to being on a similar win-loss thing, if you're already in that mentality, then Nolan Jones needs to play left, and then you need to figure out between your young guys who's playing right field. Because if you're just going to sit there and you're going to keep playing Hilliard, you're going to keep playing Cave, and then you're going to be like, well, we're not seeing the development of Goodman and Beck. Where are these guys? Why aren't we seeing more from them? Well, maybe it's because they're spending a vast majority of their time sitting on the bench behind guys that have had ample opportunities in the league. It's a situation in which the Rockies can't afford to just not, it's fine to make a low impact, a low hype move to build out the roster and give you a little more depth. But to lean on that and be like, we love that veteran presence, we love that veteran approach, yada, 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 yada. That's where the Rockies do too much. That's where the Rockies are, push the envelope too much. They rely too much on those players that aren't great. All right, we're gonna these questions are really good ones and really kind of set the stage and set the tone. But I just with the action so far this offseason, with what we've heard from the front office, I'm just not actively I'm not pumped that the Rockies will answer these questions. At least solid answers. All right, let's take a quick break and then let's finish up the show here. Unfortunately, acknowledging what might be the Dodgers' time. We'll do that coming up next in today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. And if you aren't locked in to the NFL season, well, FanDuel is going to help you if you want to get in on the sports betting action, which you should always do responsibly, folks, which is what we preach around here. But you can win big with this big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That means you're going to be able to see live action, live results, and know exactly when your bet hits. And you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. That is $200 in bonus bets guaranteed after placing your first $5 bet with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Money line, prop bets, futures, parlays, everything you want in the world of sports betting, FanDuel's got it for you. And make sure that you're doing it all responsibly, and check out all the details at FanDuel.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. We were talking about the offseason questions for the Rockies, courtesy of the Rockies Beat newsletter from Thomas Harding. If you want to go read more, and follow along, highly suggest that you subscribe to the Rockies Beat newsletter. So Thomas Harding, one of the best in the business, giving you updates. But folks, I think we all have to prepare ourselves. We have to admit to ourselves that the Dodgers are looking good. The Dodgers have the momentum. The Dodgers have the October special aura around them. I know that you could say the same about the Mets, and I think this series with the Mets it ain't going to be a pushover. I think the Mets will steal a couple of games. I just don't know if you could stop the machine this year. And it's going to be machine versus machine, I think, and I think baseball is going to get exactly what it's hoping for when it comes to the World Series, and they're going to get Yankees-Dodgers, and it's going to be a smash, and there's going to be a lot of stuff. And as unfortunate as that is for us, like, Rockies fans are kind of like, diehard baseball guys to see these big things. You can't deny the fact that it would be pretty big for baseball if those two teams are in it. You can't deny the fact that the Rockies, or not the Rockies, that baseball wouldn't be incredibly excited to have Dodgers Yankees as the World Series. I don't think they're going to pull any strings or anything like that to make it happen. I think the Yankees are in more trouble than the Dodgers. I mean, if you go cold as an offense and your best players aren't doing anything on offense, and you go up against a great pitching staff like Cleveland has and a great bullpen, you're in trouble. And I mean, look at what the Dodgers bullpen is doing right now. You were worried about the starting pitching not getting the job done for the Dodgers, but here comes the Dodgers bullpen, and they aren't allowing nothing. So I don't know. I think the wheels are all turning for the Dodgers. I think things are looking up for the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are sitting in a pretty good spot. They're sitting there. I think if you're going to look at everybody, I'd call them the favorite right now. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But they have handled a lot of the adversity. They've handled a lot of the injuries. Shohei has played well. They've gotten big home runs from important players. And of course, the bullpen. You're worried about bullpen games, but yet here come the Dodgers, and they're just rocking and rolling with the dominant bullpen. And it's just a reminder of how far to go the Rockies have. All right, folks. I am fighting it here today, so I'm going to wrap it up on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on another episode of the show. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Find us on your favorite streaming services or the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.